Liam had always been somewhat of a loner, content in his quiet routine. His days were simple: work at the town library, evenings spent reading, and volunteering at the community center on weekends. Though he had acquaintances, close relationships had always eluded him. People often sensed his reserved nature and left him to his quiet world. Yet, his kindness was apparent in the small things he did, helping an elderly neighbor with groceries or bringing fresh-baked cookies to the library staff. But he didn't share his deeper thoughts with anyone. One chilly autumn afternoon, as Liam was locking up the community center after his shift, a soft voice stopped him in his tracks. He turned to see a woman standing by the door, her expression one of quiet resolve mixed with uncertainty. "Excuse me," she began, her voice gentle but slightly trembling. "Could you help me carry some boxes? They're just too heavy for me alone." Her face struck a strange chord in Liam, a flicker of familiarity he couldn't place. But he shrugged it off, smiling kindly, and nodded. "Sure, where to?" They walked in silence, her footsteps soft beside his. She led him to a small storage area where the boxes were stacked. As they worked, she mentioned her name was Grace. Her eyes held a warmth, but a sadness too, like someone carrying a hidden weight. When they were done, she thanked him with an intensity that caught him off guard. Her eyes lingered on him a moment too long, and she offered a soft smile that felt strangely comforting, as if they shared some unspoken connection. On his way home, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that he knew Grace. But he dismissed it as a trick of the mind. The town was small, maybe he'd seen her around. Yet, the sensation lingered. That night, he tossed and turned, her face flitting in and out of his dreams, her familiar smile teasing him from memories he couldn't quite grasp. By morning, he had convinced himself it was nothing but a passing thought. Little did he know, this was only the beginning of an unexpected journey into his past, a journey that would unlock memories long buried and bring life-altering revelations. The woman he had helped was more than just a stranger, she was a fragment of his own history, one he had unknowingly left behind. The following weekend, Liam found himself back at the community center. To his surprise, Grace was there again, this time chatting with a group of older volunteers. She looked up as he entered, her face brightening when she spotted him. She walked over, holding a steaming cup of coffee, and offered it to him with a smile. "Thought you could use a warm-up," she said lightly, as though they were old friends. They spoke for a few minutes, just casual pleasantries, and Liam noticed a natural ease between them. She had a way of listening that made him feel seen, which was unusual for him. When she thanked him again for his help with the boxes, her gratitude felt sincere, almost as if she were thanking him for something much greater than a small favor. It left him feeling strangely fulfilled, though he didn't fully understand why. Days turned into weeks, and Liam found himself seeing Grace around town more often. One afternoon, he spotted her in a small cafe, seated near the window. She didn't notice him at first, her gaze was fixed on a locket she held gently in her hand, her expression filled with a kind of sadness that tugged at his heart. Intrigued, Liam stepped closer, intending to say hello, but paused as he saw her open the locket and gaze at the photograph inside. The image was too small to make out details from where he stood, but it sparked a memory deep within him, a feeling he couldn't quite name. He took a step back, hesitant to interrupt her reverie. As he walked away, he wondered about the photo. It felt important somehow, as though it held a piece of a puzzle he didn't yet know he was solving. Their paths crossed again a few days later at the community center. This time, Liam felt the need to satisfy his curiosity. After a bit of small talk, he finally asked, "Grace, have we met before?" His question seemed to catch her off guard, but she quickly masked her surprise with a soft chuckle. "Maybe," she replied with a mysterious smile, "you remind me of someone I knew a long time ago." Her answer was vague, leaving him with more questions than before. Yet, there was a glimmer in her eyes, a mix of recognition and affection that only deepened his curiosity. He wondered who she thought he was, or who she hoped he might be. In the days that followed, Liam found himself drawn to Grace's presence more and more. Their conversations grew deeper, filled with snippets of their lives, their dreams, and even their regrets. Grace revealed that she was a single mother, raising her daughter on her own. The hint of sorrow in her voice whenever she mentioned her past left him feeling protective, though he didn't know why. He wanted to ask her more, to dig deeper into the mystery of their connection, but something held him back. It was as if a part of him knew that discovering the truth would change everything. Instead, he kept their talks light and their meetings frequent, feeling more alive with each passing day. On one crisp autumn evening, they found themselves sitting together in the park, watching the leaves dance in the wind. Grace started to open up more about her childhood, mentioning the hardships she'd faced and the friends she'd lost. She seemed haunted by something, a shadow from her past that wouldn't let her go. Liam sensed her pain but refrained from asking further. He felt it wasn't his place, yet. And then, out of nowhere, she turned to him and said, "You remind me of someone very dear to me. Someone I lost a long time ago." The sadness in her voice was palpable, making him wonder just who he reminded her of, and why he felt that same sorrow deep in his bones. One day, as they were chatting in a cafe, Grace excused herself for a moment, leaving her belongings on the table. Liam's gaze fell on a small, faded photograph lying partially hidden under her wallet. Without thinking, he picked it up. His breath caught. It was a picture of two children, their faces filled with joy and innocence, holding hands. It was him. He recognized himself in the boy's face, standing beside a girl who could only be Grace. Memories began flooding back, moments of laughter, secrets shared, promises made under the stars. It was them, together, in a past he had all but forgotten. When Grace returned, Liam held up the photograph, his voice barely a whisper. This is us, isn't it?" Her eyes widened, filling with tears as she nodded. "Yes, Liam. We were inseparable, best friends who swore never to lose each other." She explained how they had grown up in the same foster home until circumstances tore them apart. For years, she had searched for him only to lose hope as time wore on. But fate, it seemed, had other plans, leading her back to him in the most unexpected way. Her words stirred something deep within him, a memory he thought he had buried forever. As Liam listened to Grace recount their shared past, he felt a whirlwind of emotions: joy, sorrow, confusion. The memories came slowly, like fragments of a puzzle fitting back together. He remembered the warmth of her hand in his, the sound of their laughter echoing through the foster home's empty hallways. They had been closer than siblings, bonded by their shared struggles and a world that often felt hostile. But life had separated them, each of them placed in different foster homes. He had tried to forget, to bury the pain of their separation, but now, seeing her before him, all those feelings resurfaced. As they sat in silence, Liam reached for Grace's hand, squeezing it gently. "Do you remember our promise?" he asked softly. She smiled through her tears and nodded. "We promised to find each other, no matter what," she whispered. They had made that vow on their last day together, each clutching a small piece of a broken necklace they had found. Now, decades later, they had fulfilled that promise, against all odds. They sat together in quiet awe, two souls who had been lost to each other, now reunited. In the weeks that followed, Liam and Grace ventured through old neighborhoods, recalling moments they had shared. They laughed over silly memories, shed tears over painful ones, and found solace in each other's presence. For the first time in years, Liam felt truly understood. With Grace, he could let down his guard, embrace the memories he had hidden, and find peace. She became a mirror, reflecting the parts of him he had forgotten, and together, they began to heal old wounds. As their bond deepened, Grace opened up about her life after they were separated. She recounted the instability of foster homes, the constant shifting from one house to another, and the few times she thought she'd found a family, only to be let down. Her voice cracked as she shared how she had clung to her memories of Liam as a lifeline, a reminder that there had been a time when she was truly cared for. Liam felt his chest tighten. He had been lucky. He'd found a stable foster home by his teenage years, one where he'd been encouraged to pursue his passions. But hearing Grace's stories of loneliness and hardship brought a sharp sense of guilt. "I should have looked for you sooner," he murmured, his voice laced with regret. Grace shook her head, placing a comforting hand on his. "We were just kids, Liam. We did what we could to survive." The memories weighed heavily on Liam. He realized he wanted more than just to reconnect with Grace. He wanted to understand his own journey through the foster system. On a quiet afternoon, he went to the town's archives, hoping to find any records from his foster home days. Grace joined him, holding his hand as they pored over dusty files and handwritten notes, piecing together fragments of their lives. Through these records, they discovered things they hadn't known, details of their brief time together in a foster family, placements that were never finalized, and reports of how they'd been inseparable as children. Each detail felt both healing and heartbreaking, shedding light on all they had lost, and all they had managed to regain. One evening, Grace surprised Liam with a small wooden box. "I kept this all these years," she said softly, her fingers brushing over the worn wood. She opened it to reveal small trinkets, a ribbon, a faded comic book, and even a crayon drawing they had made together as children. Each item held a memory, a tangible link to the past they had shared. Liam's eyes misted over as he picked up a drawing of two stick figures holding hands. "I can't believe you kept all this," he said, his voice filled with awe. Grace smiled. "It was all I had of you, Liam. These little things reminded me that I wasn't alone." They spent hours reminiscing, laughing, and crying as they sifted through the relics of their childhood. As they looked through the box, Liam found a small, crumpled note written in childish handwriting. He instantly recognized it as something he had written but never given to Grace. The note expressed his wish for them to stay friends forever, no matter what happened. Reading it now, decades later, brought a new wave of emotions crashing over him. They had kept their promise. Somehow, against all odds, they had found each other again. Seeing Liam's reaction, Grace reached over and hugged him tightly, their shared past and unspoken promises binding them even closer. In that moment, they realized that time hadn't erased their bond, it had only made it stronger. With the knowledge they had uncovered, Grace suggested they visit the foster home where they had first met. It was a bittersweet experience, walking through the halls where they had once played, laughed, and held each other through the difficult nights. The current foster parents greeted them warmly, listening with interest as they shared stories of their time there. Seeing the new generation of children who lived there, Liam and Grace felt a renewed purpose. They wanted to help these kids, to make sure they felt cared for and supported, something they had missed during their own childhoods. It was a silent promise between them, a way to honor the children they had once been. One night, over coffee, Grace confessed a lingering resentment she had held for years. She had believed Liam had abandoned her, had forgotten her as he moved on. Liam listened intently, his heart aching at the realization. "I never wanted to leave," he said softly. "They just moved me without warning." He explained how he had been placed with a new family and tried to cope with the sudden change, unaware of the impact it would have on Grace. In that moment, Grace felt her old hurt dissolving, replaced by understanding. They sat together, letting go of the misunderstandings and pain they had carried for so long, finally finding the peace they both needed. In their search for closure, Liam stumbled upon a series of letters written by their former foster mother, trying to keep them connected. The letters had been intercepted, never reaching either of them. Reading them now, they realized the woman had cared deeply for them both and had tried, in her own way, to keep their bond intact. It was a bittersweet discovery, one that filled them with gratitude for the silent support she had offered. These letters brought them closer, helping them realize that even in their darkest moments, there had been people who cared. They decided to honor her memory by volunteering together, helping foster children who faced the same struggles they once did. Moved by their journey and their shared past, Liam and Grace began advocating for foster children, becoming active members of support programs and using their story to inspire change. Their advocacy brought them closer, and their shared mission gave them a sense of purpose they hadn't felt in years. Together, they felt unstoppable, like they were finally giving back the kindness they had received and the love they had lost. As they worked to help other children, they found healing in their own hearts, knowing they were making a difference and honoring the love and memories they had shared as children. One night, as they sat by the fire after a long day of volunteering, they began reflecting on their lives, the paths they had taken, and how they had managed to find each other after all this time. Grace smiled as she recounted the memory of their last day together as children, how they had made silly promises to always be best friends. Liam chuckled, nodding. "I think some promises were meant to be kept," he murmured, his gaze soft as he looked at her. The past no longer held the same pain it once did. Instead, it felt like a treasure, something precious they had rediscovered together. Over the months, Liam and Grace grew inseparable. Their friendship blossomed, each finding comfort in the presence of the other. They spent afternoons visiting new places, sharing books, and talking late into the night about everything and nothing. The bond that had once been forged in childhood now deepened, strengthened by the experiences they had endured alone and the ones they now shared. They both realized how much they had missed out on by not being in each other's lives all these years. Together, they were rediscovering a sense of belonging that neither had known before, filling the gaps in each other's lives. One day, as they sat together, Grace took out her locket, the one she often held close. She shared its significance. It was the last item her birth mother had given her before she was placed in foster care. She had clung to it as a reminder of her family, even when she had no one. Seeing the pain in her eyes, Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out a locket of his own, one his own mother had given him, identical to Grace's. The discovery left them both breathless. Their matching lockets seemed too significant to be a mere coincidence. In that moment, a seed of possibility took root. Could they be more than just friends? The idea of being related, of sharing not only a past but a family, was both thrilling and terrifying. Driven by the implications of the matching lockets, Liam decided to dig further into their pasts. He searched through old records and contacted former social workers, hoping to uncover a connection. Grace joined him in this search, their shared determination fueling each other. Together, they pieced together clues, slowly unraveling a mystery that had remained hidden all these years. Every new discovery brought them closer to a revelation that felt almost too monumental to bear. If they were truly family, it would change everything they thought they knew about their lives and their connection. After weeks of searching, they found an old social worker who remembered their case. She confirmed their suspicions, suggesting they take a DNA test to be certain. The process was nerve-wracking, but they felt ready to face whatever truth it held. In a way, they already felt like family, bound by a lifetime of shared memories and an unbreakable bond. Waiting for the results became an exercise in patience and faith. They spent their days wondering what the future held, knowing that no matter the outcome, they would always be a part of each other's lives. The day the results arrived, they sat together in silence, reading the words that confirmed what their hearts had already known. They were siblings, separated by a system that had failed them, yet reunited by fate. Tears streamed down their faces as they held each other, both overwhelmed by the truth and the sense of completion it brought. It was a revelation that filled them with both sorrow and joy. They had finally found each other, finally become the family they had lost so long ago. In that moment, they knew their lives would be forever intertwined. In the days that followed, Liam and Grace took time to process their newfound relationship. They talked about their plans for the future, the family they had created together, and the bond that had brought them here. They realized that family wasn't defined by blood alone, but by the love and loyalty they had shown each other. Through each other, they had found a sense of family, a place where they truly belonged. Their journey wasn't over, but they were ready to face whatever life held, knowing they would always have each other. With newfound pride, Grace introduced Liam to her daughter, who quickly took to her new uncle. Watching them together, Grace felt her heart swell. She had spent so much of her life feeling alone, yet here was a family she could finally call her own. They made a pact to build new memories, to fill their lives with love and laughter. As Liam played with his niece, he felt an overwhelming sense of joy and peace. His life had been incomplete for so long, but now, with Grace and her daughter, he had finally found his home. Together, they decided to revisit the foster home where they had met as children. They walked through the familiar halls, now filled with new children and stories, and remembered the promises they had made in those very rooms. The visit was emotional, yet cathartic, a way to honor their journey and the strength it had taken to find each other. They left that day feeling lighter, their shared past no longer a source of pain but a testament to the resilience of their spirits. As time went on, Liam and Grace found peace with their past. They knew that life had been difficult, but they had found joy and healing in each other's presence. Their story had come full circle, a tale of loss, reunion, and love that defied all odds. They realized that their journey wasn't just about finding each other, it was about healing, forgiving, and building a future together. They felt grateful for the life they had, knowing that they would continue to grow and support each other. With hearts full of hope, Liam, Grace, and her daughter set out on a new journey together. They knew that life would continue to have its challenges, but they had found the family they had always dreamed of. And as they stood together, united by a lifetime of memories, they knew they were ready for whatever came next. Together, they had created a new beginning, one filled with love, hope, and the knowledge that they would always have each other. Their story was not just a tale of reunion, but a testament to the power of resilience, connection, and the unbreakable bond of family.